Hey, what's up guys? Got another neglected outboard. Let's see if we can get it running. So I just picked up here is a Nissan 5 horsepower 4-stroke outboard. It's a 1999. If you look on the side here, these are solid little motors. I've worked on these a good amount. Nissan, Tohatsu, Mercury, Mariner, they all use the same design for these 5 horsepower 4-strokes. They're single cylinder, pretty lightweight. Story I got on this one was that this motor's been sitting for at least a couple years. It was running before sitting. You know, based on the cowling, looks like it's been sitting outside for a while. And it's got some, I don't even know, some crud on there, some stuff on here. Probably needs a carb clean, an oil change, probably an impeller, all that fun stuff. Yeah, so far when I went to go buy it, I just usually do a few little tests on it. Just make sure all the gears are working. You know, it's in neutral, prop spinning freely, put it in gear. You can hear it locking in, make sure all the gears are working. You know, the guy said it had compression. Now I'm gonna take his word for it. I did pull it over. You know, it's a single cylinder, so yeah, you know, it's hard to pull over. So it's got compression. I'll do a compression test on it. Yeah, I got a compression gauge hooked up. I haven't looked up the exact PSI it's supposed to be, but typically these smaller outboards, like 70 or 80 PSI, is enough for them to run. So let's pull it over a few times and see what it's at. Yeah, it feels like it's got pretty good compression. Not the best PSI. Reading 60, but should be hopefully enough to run. We'll find out. I'm gonna test for spark. Just have the spark plug grounded on the block, so I should see some spark. Hear it. Sounds like getting spark. So yeah, since this motor's been sitting, I'm gonna spray just a tiny bit of PB Blaster, just to like coat those rings. Just slightly pull it over a little bit, just to get that going through. Yeah, I'm gonna do an oil change on this Nissan 5. I find it easier just to pump it out. So I just have a siphon pump here. You know, the drain screw is like way in there. You have to like turn the motor to the side. It just ends up being too messy. So I just prefer to pump it out. For reference, I'll just show. Just turn it to its side. There's a 10 mil bolt. Oops. Yeah, messy. It says 10W40 and 0.45 liters of oil. It's about like 15.2 ounces, so I got roughly about that much in this bottle, so we'll fill her up. Yeah, it's got spark. It's got decent compression, so got the power bowl pumped. Let's see if it wants to fire up. No choke. Choke it, give it a little bit of throttle. Okay, that's a good sign. Give it a choke again. All right, take 2. Give it some choke. The idle screw needs adjustment. The lowest position on the throttle will die. It just needs to have the idle screw slightly adjusted. Turn in this idle screw just slightly. Could be the air mixture screw, which this one's covered with the brass cap in here. Some of these like older 4-stroke carburetors, the air mixture screws behind this brass cap and you have to drill it out. It is a little tricky because if you go too far you end up hitting the screw, but they did that from the factory so you wouldn't mess with it. But on these older ones, just over time gunk gets in there, dirt comes out of adjustment, rattles free, but we'll just give it like a little turn. Probably needs a carb clean. Like inconsistent idle. You can hear the RPM trimming up and down. Either there's idle mixture screw behind here, or there's some gunk in the carb. This pilot jet right here kind of works similar to the air mixture screw. Nothing's really on there. There it goes. Spray this out with carb cleaner and then spray the hole that rests in. Yeah, so it runs okay, but because it's been sitting, I'm gonna take the carb off and clean it. These are pretty easy to clean. You know, if it doesn't fix the issue, you know, hopefully there's just a little bit of debris in the jets that's causing it to idle irregularly. Because just adjusting that pilot jet, these wiggle free because there's not too many threads on it. It's supposed to be screwed down all the way. So if it doesn't fix it cleaning the carb, then this brass cap needs to be drilled out to get to that air mixture screw behind here. Oh, actually, it's really not all that bad. There's a little bit of stuff in there, but I've seen a lot worse. Yeah, the float looks like it's at the right height too. Yeah, that's working. The needle's moving. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've got carb cleaner in my eye while doing carbs, so definitely wear eye protection. So as carefully as I can, I'm gonna try to just make a hole without pushing too hard. So I made a pretty deep pilot hole, so I'm gonna take a screw, thread it in, and then see if I can wiggle it out. If not, then I'll just have to drill a little deeper and get like a different screw. Oh, there we go. And there's that screw. Yeah, luckily I didn't drill it too far deep, but you can see it's decently thick cap. So just for reference, I want to see what it's at right now, so I'm going to turn it all the way in. It's like 2 3/4 is what it was at. So I'm going to pull this out and clean this, just in case there is some debris on it. And then I'm going to put it at like 2 3/4 turns out to put it back in that original position. All right, I got the carb reassembled. Haven't messed with the air mixture screw yet that I freed up. So we're just going to see if that carb clean did the job. And if it's still rough at idle, then we'll try adjusting the air mixture screw. Yeah, this pilot screw should be screwed all the way in because it will rattle free. So that's screwed all the way down. So let's fire it up and see what happens. With a little fine tweaking of that air mixture screw, I think I finally got it idling better. Got another project for you. So we got 2 things here. Picked up this inflatable boat, and I also got this Hangkai 6 horsepower 2-stroke motor. So for these 2 items I only paid 60 bucks total, and the guy said this motor wasn't running too. It's been sitting for a little while. I'm gonna start working on this Hangkai 6 horsepower 2-stroke, which it looks like it's basically a replica of the Mercury Nissan Tohatsu Mariner 5 horsepower 2-stroke from the 90s and early 2000s. It's got the fuel pump on the side. Looks like the same carburetor to me. It's got the single cylinder, just 1 spark plug. Yeah, these are really simple motors. Those motors are really good, so you know, if it's similar build quality, I mean obviously it's not, it's a cheaper knockoff, but you know, it should be hopefully a savable motor. I got the tank out. There's a little bit of stuff in there, but thankfully it was like drained, so not a bunch of like nasty caked on stuff. Should be pretty easy to clean. So now you can get a better look at it. Just a single cylinder. So I'm gonna do a compression test as well, see what the compression is on this motor. Yeah, this was a saltwater used motor. You can definitely see on the head gasket right here some salt water. Doesn't look too bad, but I've seen worse where salt water would literally eat away at the power head on these. Yeah, it looks pretty new actually. The guy did say he's barely used it, so let me pull it over a few times and see what the compression is. Basically 100 psi, so that's good. Yeah, this is definitely not the same build quality. You can see that the pull starter like really doesn't like to engage. The recoil works, but it's not engaging teeth very well. So it's really faint. If there's spark, it's hard to tell. So I'm just gonna throw a little starting fluid down into the carburetor here, and that'll tell us if we got spark or not. Oh, thought I heard it. Let me choke it a little bit. Okay, cool. We got spark. There's like some weird white shit coming out of the fuel selector and then came out of the tank too. So let me try to clear all this old fuel in here. Oh yeah. It's actually not too bad. Some old deposits, but I've seen a lot worse. This green 2-stroke deposit's still in here. Clean these with carb cleaner. Yeah, real sticky. Actually, yeah, this jet in here is clogged. Should be able to see through. This back side is clogged up. Yeah, now you can see through it. So actually that wouldn't have ran. So glad I took the carb off. Clean, yeah. See all these holes, you want to make sure clean too on the side here. That main one as well. So if you look on the back side here, that needle's not moving with the float, so that needle's stuck in there. There's just probably some old fuel that's stuck. You can see it through the side there. That needle should be moving with the float, but it's not, so we'll have to take off this assembly here. Just undo this screw, clean everything, and it should hopefully move as it should. There we go, that's the hole. This tab has grabbed on the right side here, but this left side, the tab is like falling down. So now, there we go. So now that needle's moving with the float. The tab was sitting a little bit high. It was like sitting like right about there, but now I just bent it a little bit, so now it looks pretty even to me. The bottom of this should be like resting just about level to the bottom of the carb here. So maybe could even sit like slightly lower, but I think right there should be okay. I always like checking under here too. There's some passages that could be blocked. Usually they're not, but since I have the carb off, I'll just check it anyways. Yeah, there's two like brass fuel passages down in here. Shoot some carb cleaner through them. I got the carb back on. Got some mixed two-stroke fuel in it. Cleaned out the white shit coming out of the fuel lines. So yeah, let's see if she wants to fire up. Probably gonna take a few pulls for the fuel to get to the carb. Alright, we're getting somewhere. Put the choke back in. Pull the choke out again. I realized I forgot to clean this air mixture screw right here. Could be an issue. So I'm gonna turn it in all the way and see what it's at right now. 4 1/4. So let me pull this out, clean the hole, clean the needle, and then fine tune it from there. There's a lot of dirt all up on here, so that affects how much air is getting to the carb. So let's clean this, clean the hole, see if it runs better. I finally got it running right. I had to really back out this screw. Still not out an adjustment. That's a little better. Idle is a little high. Back it off slightly. Stop button works. See if it fires back up. Oh yeah, this pull starter is just fucked up. I even took it off. Everything's there. Just the teeth don't really catch the flywheel. Like the teeth that, as you pull it out, these teeth like spring out, but they're just not very good at catching the flywheel. Other than this pull starter being messed up, it's actually running pretty good. Now, let me clean this Hangkai motor up, just some simple green. It even sounds exactly like the Mercury Nissan Tohatsu 2-stroke 5 horsepower. Crazy. Yeah, the top half of the motor cleaned up pretty nicely. The half though is wet. It's definitely in salt water, so gotta clean this up pretty good. Yeah, like the anode looks okay, but yeah, man, salt water really messes stuff up. All right, I'm gonna sand this lower unit. Gotta take off the prop though. Sand it, paint it, make it look nice. Got the prop off, but yeah, look at those splines, man. They're really rusted out. But yeah, I really wanted to get that off so I could get all this shit up here to sand. think that's as good as I'm gonna get it now. I got this like body filler primer just to try to fill in all the like imperfections, and then I'll sand it down afterward. Alright, I sanded that shit, so let's paint it black. Just using a 2-in-1 paint and primer, Rust-Oleum semi-gloss. I've done 3 coats of black. Now I'm gonna do a clear coat. Well, here's the lower unit now. Definitely looks a lot better. You know, there's a couple of spotty areas, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a shitty Hangkai. Looks a lot better than it was. I'm firing it up one more time after painting the lower unit and the prop. Still running good. Alright, swooped up another motor here. Gonna start working on. It's a 15 horsepower Sea King by Chrysler. Actually, Sea King by Montgomery Ward. These were like late 70s, early 80s, I think, on these decals. I worked on one of these before. They're not the best motors. Yeah, I got this for 20 bucks. I see that there's 2 wires cut here. Assuming those are the stop button wires since there's nothing hooked up. I know it needs a carb clean from what the guy said. It wasn't running. It's been sitting, I think he said, like 5 to 10 years. So, pull starter mechanism has some cracks in it. You can see there's some play in the pull string as well. But I think I'm just gonna start by taking the carb off. I did spray a little starting fluid in it. It did fire up, but the guy said it needed a carb clean and wasn't running. So we'll take that off since it most likely needs one. So I'm trying to remember how I did this the last time I worked on this motor. I mean, there's 2 nuts, 11 mil on each side holding it down. You have to undo this mechanism to get to that nut. And then down in here, there's a 14 mil nut holding this on, because you can't slide the carb off. You have to remove this to slide this mechanism out of the way. Yeah, it's not very user friendly from what I remember. Oh, it actually doesn't look half bad. Not getting any water. Idle's a little bit low. It was idling kind of low, so I tightened down this screw until it got to a good idle. Yeah, this screw down here, I think if you tighten it, it adjusts the throttle position for idle too. You can see this like timing plate right here is moving when I tighten that down. Now I'm gonna do an impeller change on the Sea King. Just a couple 11 mil bolts. Just gonna use my cordless ratchet to get them off. So after you've removed the 4 bolts, there's kind of like this dumbass Allen bolt up in there. So yeah, it's a 4mm size. Stupid Allen. There it goes. There it goes. And I saved the Allen. Yeah, this little unit's looking pretty nasty. Looks like someone did some epoxy gasket job. Oh yeah, it looks like someone made their own gasket. There's a lot of fucking chunks of dirt or metal. I don't know if that's pieces of the impeller or what, but we'll find out. So let's take off this water pump, see how the impeller looks. Oh yeah, that thing's, the fuck is this? What the fuck? Yeah, this thing's pretty ancient looking. I feel like it's supposed to have a gasket there or something. Looks like it's maybe missing that. There we go. See what's under here. Make sure there's nothing. Oh, actually, they used a bunch of gasket maker under here too. Yeah. Just want to make sure there's no blockage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be an O-ring here. Just got these Harbor Freight O-ring kits. Just gonna find the one that seems right and push that in. I'm pretty sure there should be an O-ring here. It looks like there's supposed to be one. All right, got this new impeller. Add that impeller on. My GoPro's been acting up a little bit, so here's what's been going on. So with this motor, it's been drilled out, but basically in the top gear is reverse. In the middle is neutral, and then bottom's forward. So what happened is that I would put it in reverse, and then after a few seconds it would rattle free and it would drop back into neutral. And so I messed around with the linkages here. So this bottom gear, when you push it all the way down, is in reverse right now. So what happened is the length of this ball joint at all the way maxed out wasn't long enough, and then it would slip it back into neutral after it would rattle free. So I messed around with the lower unit and tried adjusting the linkages, but that wasn't working. So what I've done here instead is, since this ball joint was all the way maxed out and it couldn't hit neutral gear, I added a coupling and an insert and then attached the ball joint. So here's just some extras I had so you can get a look at it. And this is like a 1/4 inch. It wasn't the exact fitting that fit onto this rod here, so I had to use my thread tapper and tap the threads and drill some new threads into it. And so now with this, I just have to connect it to that ball joint down there, and all the gears have been working now. Yeah, it's a pretty tight fit, if you can see, to get that ball joint down there. Helps to have some curved pliers. So there we go. And then just, there it goes. Good water with that new water. Now reverse works, it doesn't slip. That's the reverse. Back to neutral. Forward, doesn't slip either. Back to neutral. Reverse. Alright, I'm going to remove this flywheel since there's just not enough wire here to hook up a stop button. So I need to pull the flywheel off to see what wiring we got going on. So there is no pre-drilled holes to have a flywheel puller to remove this flywheel. So I'm just going to have to hit it. I just have a piece of wood to prop it up a bit. Alright, I removed this piece. And yeah, there's still no pre-drilled holes to remove this flywheel. Alright, after a shitload of hammering, finally got it off. Or at least loosened it a bit. Just need to get off this nut. But I saw it move up. It should hopefully still slide up. Oh, that fucking moved. There it goes. Well, I pulled this stop button wire out and the ends are cut, so I'm not sure what the hell is going on, why the ends were cut. Not even 100% sure where it's supposed to be connected to. It was like on this coil right here. Man, I've been looking at diagrams and videos and I don't know if I got it right, but I know one wire goes here and I'm not confident, but I think the other wire goes here because it's going to each coil. So hopefully that's right. We'll put it together and find out. Let's see if this stop button works. Nice. All right, cool. I hooked it up right. Let's try it one more time. Sweet. All right, got another one. So what we got here, just picked it up today. It's a 2008 based on the serial number. Suzuki 2.5 horsepower 4-stroke. Got a really good deal on it. The owner said that he had it as a kicker motor for his boat and it kind of stopped running. It would like cough. And he took it to a boat shop and they quoted him like over $400 to fix this thing for like a carb clean and some spark plugs. And yeah, he didn't want to pay that. He didn't want to fix it, so he sold it for pretty cheap. So yeah, he said it would cough, so obviously it probably means a carb clean. I don't think it probably would need much more than that based on how clean it looks. I mean, the carb itself looks super clean. Spark plug has like hardly any rust. He said he barely ran the thing. So it's got single cylinder, pretty big carb for a single cylinder. But yeah, I got an internal tank. I think at a minimum, clean the tank, clean the carb. Should have a running motor here. Fuel tank is drained, but I don't know if you can see in there. There's like a bunch of dirt. Looks almost like sand. Spark plug. Oh yeah, looks pretty decent. It's on the side here. There's oil. That's interesting. Needs a carb clean. I'm gonna take the carb off. There's just two 8mm bolts on each side. A couple linkages to undo. Oh yeah. She's dirty. I don't know if you can tell, but someone's been in this car before. and stripped the hell out of the jet in there. So I've been having that soaked just for a minute in PB Blaster. See if I can save it or not, or if it's too stripped. Yeah, you can really see that jet now, like the edges are all stripped out on the side. You can see in there, but that needle isn't moving when the float's moving. That needle's stuck. Yeah, I finally got that stupid needle out, dude. Like, that was one of the worst needles I've seen, or most stuck needles I've seen. And as you can see, I mean, this dude is all gunked up with stuff. So yeah, I'm surprised I didn't break the tab. I got the ultrasonic cleaner going. Just do 50-50 simple green and water. Carb was just really dirty. All right, so now I got the carb all cleaned and installed. I don't know if you can see, but now that needle freely moves, so it allows fuel as the float moves. Under that hole, there's this flathead screw that goes on top of there. So once you remove that, there's a tiny little jet that goes in there. It's really hard to extract. You got to get like a really small flathead screwdriver to get. And this jet was clogged up. And also, these two jets, these two brass jets on each side were also clogged up. So I'm hoping that was why this wasn't idling right. So I've cleared those jets. We'll reinstall it and see what happened. I think I finally got this stupid little Suzuki dialed in, man. I've gone through this carb so many times, and I think finally by extracting those jets and really cleaning the ones under here, you know, it didn't even get cleaned in the ultrasonic cleaner. I had to just go jet by jet. It's finally running right. Even drilled out that air mixture screw, so had to fiddle around with that, got that dialed in. So it should be finally running right. Finally idling right. Before, like, the screw for the idle was like, I had taken off the spring and like had to max it all the way out, and it was like idling really high, but it's finally idling at a low idle how it's supposed to. The RPMs aren't going up and down, which it was doing before. RPMs to idle are steady. Might need an impeller change. I know these are like the first gen. These ones have like a mist. The second gen shoots like a big spray out, from what I've seen. That's finally got a consistent idle. I can't remember what I set this at. I don't really want to mess with it. I finally got it dialed in. Yeah, the gears work. It's gonna shoot a lot of water. All right, so here we got this Johnson 9.9 two-stroke. You know, here's the cowling. It's either like a 95 or 1996, I can't remember. But so I've had it featured in like some YouTube shorts. You know, it runs pretty good, but every once in a while, right out of here, it'll leak fuel and it'll shut off the motor and it won't run right. So I had some carb kits lying around, so I replaced some gaskets. Here's the issue that I was having. So this needle on the left here was the needle that was in the carb, while this needle on the right is a new needle. So if you can see, this needle on the left, it's more blunt and has like a rounded point to it, while this needle on the right is obviously a lot straighter. And so the issue that it was having is, it's really subtle, but this needle on the left, because it has like a blunt rounded tip, was allowing a little bit of fuel and wasn't seated right, as opposed to this needle on the right being a lot sharper point. And so it was allowing a little bit of fuel to pass. And so now with this new carb kit and a new needle installed, it should be running good. So I've worked on a handful of these mid-late 90s Johnson 9.9 and 15s. They use the same like block, pretty much same style. The issue that they have though, and the reason I did this is because the cowling latch on pretty much most of them I worked on are like screwed up. They basically have like some notches and like a spring and they slide in, but those notches get like worn out or the spring is usually missing. And so what I've done is I just pop out like these like rubber or plastic like inserts that they have in them, and I just install my own latches here. So these are just some hooks, and these latches just go on top of it. These are just some cooler latches, I believe is what they were marketed as on Amazon, but they work pretty good. You can adjust the length too of the screw, but yeah, pretty easy. They just snap on and it works just fine. So far everything I've done to it, it had actually been sitting for like 10 or 15 years. And so when I did compression tests, it had low compression. So I replaced the head gasket. That ended up fixing the compression. So now the PSI was like 95 on both cylinders, I believe. It's been a while since I've done a compression test on it. It wasn't peeing water, so I put a new impeller in it. Now it's peeing good water. Got that carb kit in there. Even put a new fuel pump because I had one lying around. And yeah, it's running pretty good now. So I've showed this motor in a couple YouTube shorts. So here it is again. This is I've looked up the show number, I can't find it, but it should be like late 70s, early 1980s. It's a Mariner made by Yamaha, 8 horsepower, 2-stroke. You know, the decals are all really bad and the cowling was like destroyed, so I kind of sanded it, spray painted it. Haven't put new decals on it yet. But so the issue with this motor is that it would run good most of the time, but every now and then it would kind of like shut off and you'd have to pump the primer bulb to give it more fuel, then it would run again. So this is actually a new aftermarket carburetor that ended up fitting. So the issue with the old carburetor here, you can see it's a little different style too than this new one. The fuel pump specifically is a different shape and the mounting plate's a little bit different, but the gaskets on this fuel pump were like completely destroyed. So it would run good and then it would just kind of stop pumping fuel is what it would do. And I could not find anywhere online new gaskets or a new fuel pump with this style. So really the only option to fix this that I could find was just buying a whole new aftermarket carb that I have installed now. Something to note too, so this is, yeah, again, a 1970s or 1980s Yamaha made one. There's like hardly any plastic, which I actually like. It makes it a little bit heavier, but you know, the pole starter, all metal. Yeah, same thing with the shift knobs, all metal. New ones are like all plastic now. A lot of these components just all metal, minimal plastic. The body, all metal, you could drop it. As opposed to like a newer motor, this is like a newer Suzuki 2.5 horsepower 4-stroke. You know, a lot of hard plastic on the side plates, and cowling is like all plastic now. Pole starter is all plastic. So these older motors I like. They're heavier, but they're built to last longer. Another thing with older motors too that I feel like new motors don't usually do is these older motors always included like extra cotter pins or pins for the lower unit in case you were to break the shear pin. So I feel like these newer motors you buy don't usually have these parts in it. Little choke. Yeah, it's got a good impeller, but these motors only just pee like a little bit of stuff out this hole. Working on another motor here. This was a pretty sweet deal. So we got here is a Johnson 28 horsepower 2-stroke long shaft. Based on the decals, haven't even looked up the show number, should be like 1980s. Even came with the control box with all the cables, the key, the harness and everything. And I picked this up for free. Well, I actually gave the dude a handle of vodka just because I had to give him something for getting a free motor. So yeah, the story I got in it was that he has a business and a customer of his had this sitting around for like 10 or 15 years, just collecting dirt and rotting away in his backyard. And the customer actually passed away, and I guess his wife, sounds like, gave him this motor for some work he did, or just because it had been sitting around, just wanted to get rid of it. And so the guy put it on his boat. He said it fired right up. I don't even think he cleaned the carb, sounded like. And they took it out to the water, but they realized it wasn't peeing any water. And so it had an overheat alarm, I guess, installed on it, and it shut off, and he just wanted to get rid of it since he got it for free. I think he even actually said he bought a new lower unit for it because the original one was pretty chewed up. Got one off eBay or something. So, but yeah, for a free motor, we can figure out why it's not peeing. That'd be awesome. So I think he looks like he even gave me, I don't know if this is a used impeller, haven't even got a chance to open it up yet, but gave me an impeller for it. So I gotta hook up all the battery cables to like the solenoid and to the starting motor. I've worked on one of these before. I think I remember how everything goes, so let's start hooking stuff up. Let's see if I hooked everything up right. Got the positive one on this side of the solenoid. Got the negative one to here. And then, yeah, just was looking at diagrams to make sure that the engine harness had all the right hookups. One to this end of the solenoid, one to this ground on the black wire here. So, moment of truth. Let's see if she fires up. Or turns over, I guess. I pulled the spark plugs out already. Got the harness hooked up. Let's see what happens. There we go. And it's got some sort of doing something right there, so that's good. Well, I'm dying to know what this thing's gonna do. So, got a battery hookup to it, got some water. So let's see if it fires up. The guy said it runs, so just doesn't pee water. I know he did mention that he was gonna clean the thermostat. I think he said he put an impeller in, but yeah, let's fire it up and see what happens. Getting out of here, the gasket is broken. I know he mentioned he was trying to check the thermostat, but you can see it needs a new head gasket. So that's unfortunate, but it's a free motor, so what do you expect? I've got the power head off. It's not too bad of a job, but as you can see, yeah, this head gasket is completely destroyed, and up by where the thermostat sits, it's missing all the gasket material. The thermostat itself actually isn't too bad. I can't remember if he said he put a new one in or not, but it's got some spring to it, which usually means they're okay. But I wonder too if there's some blockage up in here where the water flows. So we'll get a new head gasket and might need a new impeller, or need to probably find out where there's a blockage in this motor. Yeah, I'm gonna try to clean up some of this corrosion here. I mean, especially down here on this bottom cylinder. It's like a lot of buildup. Well, I got the gasket off this head cover piece here. You can really see how much corrosion is in here. So, gonna clean it up, sand it, get all this gunk off, and then put on the new gasket. Little grinding wheel, get off all this corrosion. Alright, I got it all sanded. Got a new gasket. If I need to, I'll apply some ultra gray gasket material, but I'll try it without it and see how it is. Oh, I just noticed this now when I went to go put on the head cover. There's a broken bolt right here. I mean, there's a little bit of stem sticking out, which is good, but I didn't notice this until now. So there's kind of a few ways I like to get these out. My favorite way is to actually just weld a nut onto there, but you can kind of see there's already a little chip missing on this power head, so I kind of don't want to do that to start. I could grind like a little slit in here and get like a flat head and try to extract it. I think I'm gonna try to use some heat with a blowtorch and heat this up and get a nut that's like slightly smaller, like the wrong size nut that can go over, and try to get a socket or a wrench and get this free. So let's try to get this out. All right, it's moving. Oh yeah, it's moving. Expanded. All right, there you have it. Yeah, these bolts are pretty crusty, so just put an anti-seize on all of them before putting this head cover on. To take this lower unit off, should just take off this big nut here, and behind here there's a bolt that holds the shift linkage. So I gotta remove that bolt and this, and should be able to drop this. 4 bolts right here too that you gotta remove. Just 11 mil or 7/16. All right, remove just the bottom bolt in there. I'm just gonna finish dropping these 4 bolts right here, and the lower unit should drop. These cordless ratchets make it so much faster. I got the lower off. Just gonna remove this midsection to get better access to the impeller. Remove the 4 bolts, hold on the water pump. Let's see how this impeller looks. Oh yeah, that looks not good. I wonder if the drift key is missing or not. Yeah, look at that impeller. No wonder it's not peeing. It's completely warped. Yeah, he even gave me a new impeller, but you can see the difference. It's a different drift key. This drift key is like a really fat, wide one, and this one's like a narrow one. So this wouldn't even fit in the housing. So just gotta get a new impeller for this, and I think we should be okay. So I'm gonna shoot some water up this water line just to see if there's any blockage, since I got the lower unit off anyways, and while I wait for a new impeller. So we'll see. Should make a mess, but hopefully it shoots out the top. There we go. Cool, so there's no blockage. All right, finally got a new impeller here, so you can really see the difference between the new one versus the old one. Yeah, like this old one, the fins are just super bent up. They're not broken off, but yeah, this just isn't gonna pump any water in this condition. And so when they have these grooves like this, any impeller really, you know, this side has no indent or grooves, and this side obviously is curved, so that's where the wood drift key goes down. So you just wanna make sure you do this side face down when you put it back onto the motor. All right, I got the lower unit back on. So this is the water line. It was disconnected, but I went to blow through it. Nothing's coming through, so that means that there's some blockage somewhere in here. I tried shooting water through the hose in it too, but nothing was coming out. I think I need to have some gasket material. It was leaking here, or just tighten these bolts down a little bit. It was like kind of misfiring. Yeah, it's leaking a little bit there. Fixed the no leaking water, that's good. Well, we fixed the no pumping water issue, which is awesome, but the problem with this gasket is you can kind of see it's overlapping a little bit, and it's just slightly big. So I had a feeling I should have just put ultra gray gasket maker on it, or really any gasket maker. I pretty much got this whole thing coated, so let's line this gasket up. Yeah, I also applied the gasket material to the power head as well. So it took me like so many tries to get this perfect. But for this shift linkage in here, this bracket can be moved up and down, but it connects the two shift rods. The rod in the lower unit comes up, and then the rod from the shift handle comes down, and this bracket piece meets here, and these two bolts connect it. And so I had to adjust actually the shift cable just slightly, just the positioning, just for it to get all three gears to work. So now, put it in gear. Prop should be locked, which it is. And then back to neutral, spins freely, and then to reverse, locked also. So all three gears are working as they should now. So far I've just got a handle of vodka and about 20 bucks invested in this thing. It's running pretty good. Got everything hooked up, and I advanced the timing very slightly here. By turning that to the right or clockwise, you advance the timing just a little bit on this cam right here on this little timing piece. So yeah, with all those fixes, it's running pretty good. I do want to put some new spark plugs in, but they are pretty fouled up. So that's kind of the last thing for parts wise, at least, that I can think of for now. Yeah, she's already warmed up. Got pee and good water now. My new impeller. See, it's a good stream. Just give it some RPMs here. Alright, this will be the last motor I show. So this is a Nissan 1999 Nissan 40 horsepower 2-stroke. I picked this up a few months ago. Seemed to have lost all the footage though I have working on it. It's a 20-inch long shaft. It's got power tilt and trim. Yeah, so it's got triple carburetors. It's a 3-cylinder, and I bought it from like a boat shop in the bay. So it was a saltwater boat. I believe it was on like a pretty big inflatable boat that had been kind of abandoned or sitting for years. So to my knowledge, just hasn't ran in like 5 years. And actually I brought it home. I didn't even clean the carb and it fired up. It ran okay. So I lost all the footage, but I've already cleaned all 3 of these carbs. You just have to kind of undo all the linkages and whatnot. So I cleaned all those, put new spark plugs in it, and haven't fired it up in a few months. I do want to actually, I prefer to delete the oil injection system on these. Me personally, I just like the peace of mind knowing that there's already oil in the tank. So I'm gonna plan to do it pre-mix. Just haven't done it yet, but yeah, let's just fire it up since it's been a few months now since this thing has ran. It even came with like all the gauges and everything. I think I was missing the key when I got it, so I think I put an ignition switch in it with the new key. And yeah, other than cleaning the carb and new spark plugs, I think that's everything. So yeah, let me put some water to it and see if it fires up still. There's even a little choke knob right here to give it some stroke. Pump primer bulb. Bottom one, it's no difference RPMs. I can hear it trying to spark. Yeah, that one dropped for sure. That one for sure. I thought it wasn't getting sparked, the bottom one, but it is. So we'll take off these 2. Maybe it's getting like intermittent spark or something because it still will fire up. So it's just got the bottom spark plug hooked up. Let's see. Yeah, so it's running on 1 cylinder, with just the bottom one. So bottom one's got spark. Middle one obviously has spark. That top one has got spark, so I guess all 3 do have spark. It's just idling a little bit rough. Could like increase the RPM slightly for idle. So like right here, this should probably be the starting position right here. See if the gear selector works. There we go. Forward, neutral, reverse. Still gotta adjust this throttle position, not super hard, just to give it a little more RPMs at idle. So glad we narrowed down. All 3 cylinders are getting spark. I don't have a boat to put this on yet at the moment, so stay tuned for another video of that. Probably also do an impeller change and delete the oil injection system. So thanks for sticking around for this whole video. I know there's a lot of motors, so please like and subscribe, helps out the channel. Thanks guys, see you on the next one.